was first authorized in 1974, and realized that every state has its own laws around the juvenile delinquency program, for lack of a better word. Each state has its own laws. So in 1974, they created this law to have somewhat of a cohesive law in all states that states would adhere to, a foundation to start of how you would handle juvenile delinquents. It was established to ensure states and territories meet certain common standards for how youth across the country are treated in the justice system. It did this by establishing two core protections: a probation on the incarnation of being incarcerated of youth charged with criminal defenses, conduct that is a criminal, the conduct which is considered criminal is something that is engaged by an adult, such as something that's not engaged by an adult, like skipping school, running away from home. Those things are considered juvenile. Stealing, breaking into a car, those things in a lot of the states, no matter how old the child was, they were considered an adult. So this state helped create a formula. This law helped create a formula so that most states could adhere to, and that would be the starting point. They still had and do have precedents to do what they feel is correct for their state. For instance, Missouri, where I'm from, I was shocked to find out that in 2017, they passed a law. If a child gets into a fight or is charged with battery and assault, and this could be children fighting in school. This could be a couple of kids coming together fighting. Ranging from the age of 5 years old, starting at 5. At 5 years old, if a teacher in a school called the police on a child at 5 years old having a fight or having a temper tantrum, they could arrest that child, handcuff, and in all likelihood be booked, taken pictures of, fingerprinted, and they would have a felony on their record. I know, it's mind-blowing. Let's put up one of the pictures. So this picture here, this little girl, I know this story from YouTube. This little girl had a temper tantrum at school. She's 5 years old. The teacher called the police. The police came and arrested this baby. On YouTube, you hear her crying and screaming. They literally, because her little hands are so small, they use zip ties to tie her hands behind her back and put her in a police car. They took her to the station. They printed. They took fingerprints. It's just so upsetting. Okay, they took fingerprints. They booked her. And then they called her grandmother. After they'd done all this, then they called her grandmother to tell her. And the grandmother said on the YouTube video, you see the grandmother saying, I thought this could not be real. I was like, I kept telling her, no, you must have the wrong child. My baby is 5 years old. 5 years old. And they're like, yeah. So the teacher said the child had a temper tantrum that was so out of control that the teacher, an adult, felt that they had to call the police. And this was how they handled the situation. So this is what they're saying in Missouri, that a teacher can do that as early as a child's at 5 years old in a fight, having a temper tantrum, out of control that they can call the police and this child can be arrested. Now, there are so many things that just are pound in this. Number one, this, at least the information that I got, this particular law, they targeted toward children of color. And once a child, can you imagine at 5 years old getting a felony, and it's following you for the rest of your life? It will affect your opportunities. It will affect the school that you can go to. It will affect the jobs that you can participate in. But most importantly, they are finding, which I'm surprised that it's a shock, that kids that are incarcerated early tend to follow that pattern for the rest of their life. And what this child needs, I'm not saying that the child did not need some help, did not need some supervision. The police was not the answer. You need to have some type of social worker, some type of mental health person that can come in and help this situation, not the police. And this is the other thing that really pissed me off with the police officer. That you would think that that's something that you would do to a 5-year-old little girl. And he tells her, when you act up like this, this is what happens to you. What does that embed in a child's mind? We are in a state right now that if we don't realize that the way that we are being policed, the way our children are being policed, we are creating a world of criminals. We're creating it. The police. Is it time for reform? Is it time to defund? When we see that we are arresting children at the age of 5 and 6, is it time for us to rethink our system? A system that is failing our children and that's failing us. Police, defund, reform. What are the laws in your part of the world? Do you know? We understand that kids are not fully formed before 21. A lot of rules that we can't do until we're 21. Yet a child, 5 or 6, can be put into a juvenile detention?